This video is about how to draw a human figure with accurate proportions. We'll start with the unit of measurement of a head, or a human rather. It is 7 heads tall. If you imagine the human figure as a series of tubes and circles, you'll get a quick outline of the figure. We're going to be talking about the head, neck, torso, arms, legs, and hips. So here we go. We're going to draw a figure in correct proportions using our measuring skills to make the person look like a normal person accurately. The first thing we're going to draw, of course, is the head, and that is basically like an egg that's pointing down. I'm not going to draw very big because I want to fit the whole body on my page here. It's not a perfect oval. It's got a little bit of a point at the chin there. And the head measurement right here is going to be our unit of measurement. We're going to take that head. I put my pencil down and I see where the top and the bottom of the head is. That's one head. We need 7 heads high. That's how tall a person is. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I just had room for number 7. You need to change the height of your head overall to make it a little bit smaller. We need to do that now. I just fit all 7 heads on my page. Once again, there's 1 head, 2, so I'm going to make a little mark there. And that's about 3, about 4, 5, 6, and 7. That's correct height from the top of the head to the bottom of the foot. And now we can think about the neck. The neck is not as thick as the head, but it's not super skinny either. This is going to be thinking about the body as a series of circles and tubes. So we've got a circle type shape here, and we've got a tube for the neck, like a cylinder. Our neck is pretty clearly a cylinder. And after we've drawn our neck in, it's time to think about the torso and then the hips. The torso is going to go from the bottom of the neck down to about the 3rd line here. 1, 2, 3rd line. So our torso is one of these tube type shapes. You can imagine a cylinder that's getting a little more narrow at the hips. There we have the torso. And the hips, it's kind of like 2 ovals. The bone inside of there is called your pelvis. And the pelvis has got some flat bones to it. If you've ever seen a skeleton or even a skeleton costume, there's these little holes in the bone. Makes it almost look like a butterfly. And then the backbone goes up this direction. So the pelvis has got 2 more or less oval shapes that are about 1 head high. This will be the waist, and then the hips. Pelvis is also called the hip bone. So we're thinking about where those 2 ovals go, and look at those ovals. They're just about the same size as the head. So we have got circles and 1 tube so far. We should think about doing the arms next. Let's come back up to the top of our torso and make a few circle shapes. Those represent the shoulders. After you've got your shoulders in place, I want you to think about your elbow. Feel on your body right now, where does your elbow bump into the side of your body? Is it down at your waist? Or down here? No, of course not. Your elbow bumps into your rib cage. So we want to put the elbow of our human figure down here. Your shoulder is a larger circle. Your elbow is a little bit smaller. So right now I'm going to put 2 elbows on my figure. And now I can make the tubes connect to those circles. We're using circles and tubes. So here's a tube right here that connects, because our arm's a little thicker at the top and then gets more narrow at the elbow. So there's the upper arm, the bicep and tricep muscles. And the lower arm, if you were standing up, you could judge where your arm touches your leg. It comes down and it doesn't meet your body at your hip, and your hand doesn't reach all the way down to your knee if you're standing straight up. Our fingertips will end up right about at line 4. So if this is line 1, 2, 3, 4, then we want our fingertips to stop foreheads down. Today we're just going to use a shape kind of like a leaf to represent our hands. So we'll just make a leaf-like shape and a little wrist. Then we can make our tube connect to the wrist. That little leaf shape represents the hands. Again, I've got my fingertip just a little past the 4th line. So here's a leaf shape, a little wrist, and now my tube connects to the circle that represents my joint. We've done the head as a circle, the neck as a cylinder, the torso as a tube, shoulders, elbows, and wrists are all circles. It's time now for us to move on to the legs, naturally. We've got our knees. And guess what? Line 5 is about where our knee joint is. So you make 2 little circles for knees, and we connect from the hip down to the knee with 2 large tubes that get slightly more narrow as they come into connection with the knee. And down here, about halfway between line 6 and 7, is the ankle. About halfway between 6 and 7. Now I've drawn in my ankle joint with a circle. It's time to make a tube. It's going to be wider at the knee and narrower at the ankle. And the bottom, where our foot goes, we can use a triangular shape for today. Drawing shoes, drawing feet takes time, just like learning to draw a hand takes time. But if you just draw some triangular shapes for shoes or feet today, you'll get the idea. And that is roughly what a human looks like in correct proportions. 7 heads high. We started with the head. You could learn all about the bones and the muscles some other time, but right now, this is a good way to measure off the human figure. As we continue to learn and grow in our artwork, you might start to try and represent a human in your artwork in different poses. Standing pose there, just like what we drew, but then we've got people doing yoga or dancing, and all these arrows show different directions that the body is moving. The backbone is straight up, the head is tilted, the arm is even further angled, the bottom leg going vertically. You'll learn to see that as you practice. Here we've got a sitting figure, but we still see the circle for the head, the shoulders, elbow, knee, wrist, ankle.